todayyyy Nation, I'm proud to announce that I got rid of the mic that we all hated. This might be the peak of my career, this might be the best opportunity of my life, and I think we're just gonna have such a better year here on todayyyy. Beautiful, wonderful, now I can use my hand. Anyway, welcome back to my channel, Pop Girls. I'd like to think of myself as a pop girl in spirit. Not in the sense that I am a pop star, but in the sense that I work in the music industry, specifically in pop, and my favorite genre of music is pop, and most of what I cover on YouTube and in social media is pop. So am I an honorary pop girl in spirit? Yes, I am. And speaking of pop, we all know she is ever changing, ever evolving. There's always someone new on the rise or someone just beneath the surface. These days, especially with a female pop-oriented 2024, we talk a lot about big stars like Taylor Swift, Chappell, Roan, Charlie XCX, Sabrina, Carpenter, Billie Eilish. These are girls dominating the charts, selling out arenas, and being at the forefront of music pop culture conversation. But today here on todayyyy, we're going to be talking about some pop girls who have not quite reached that level of success yet. Maybe they're just on the cusp. Couple of hits, successful tours, and groups of fans. Their work really resonates with audiences, but they're just not seemingly on the same level as pop's biggest powerhouses right now. So we're going to explore these 4 girls, from branding to marketing, their image and style and their music, so we can kind of unpack why they're not quite there yet and what it takes to be a successful woman in pop in general. First up, girls, we're going to talk about Tate McRae. Tate McRae is a Canadian singer and songwriter that's still fairly newer to the pop scene and conversation. She first gained her prominence on the hit show So You Think You Can Dance at age 13. She was a dancer long before she was a pop star, starting recreational dance training at age 6. And then she continued dancing through her whole life and competing, and then was eventually also trained in ballet. Tate actually had an absolutely insane dance career. I literally did not know about this. Like, I knew that she had a dance background, but then I actually researched Tate McRae, and she did so many things. She performed in so many places. She was in music videos. She was uploading a lot of dance related content on YouTube as well. But then in 2017, she would also begin to post singing videos. She started a series on YouTube where she would post original songs in her bedroom. The first song she ever posted, One Day, went viral with 40 million views. So she self-released the song as an independent single. From here, she would continue releasing original songs, each one getting her millions upon millions of views, some of which were climbing really high to like anywhere between 20 and 50 million. And because of all of these videos going extremely viral, she had many offers from many different record labels. I think it was said there was up to 12 different labels wanting her, like knocking on her door. But she settled on signing with RCA Records under Sony in 2019, and it said that she chose RCA because they let her continue to have a dance career alongside doing her music. So she released her first EP at the beginning of 2020 called All the Things I Never Said, and went on a North American and European tour that completely sold out. This debut EP actually features a track called Tear Myself Apart that was co-written by Billie Eilish and Phineas, who were also blowing up mega big time in this era of time, of course. There's also a single on this EP called Stupid that charted in Canada in the top 15. But yeah, since this song charted so well in Canada, she managed to get airplay on the radio, and that obviously would help her gain some more attention. So then pretty soon after this EP, she would begin releasing singles for her next project. First one was called You Broke Me First, which peaked in the top 10 on several charts and was her first Billboard 100 entry in the United States. It was also the longest charting song released by a female artist in 2020 on the Billboard Hot 100 at 38 weeks. And this, all of a sudden, would have this girl all over the place doing every little thing. Like, it just takes one thing. This was the domino for her. She performed this song at the VMAs pre-show, then on her first Jimmy Kimmel appearance, at the MTV Europe Award, and on Jimmy Fallon. And then she started gaining recognition as a rising artist in 2020 specifically. She was named YouTube's Artist on the Rise for the year, MTV's Push Artist for July, and she made it to the top 10 of the Rolling Stones Breakthrough Artist of the Year. Then she was featured in Billboard's 21 Under 21 to Watch list. Whew! Oh my goodness, what a fast career. You see how some pop girls have really slow careers, but I read stuff like this and it was just like, Wow. Anyway, she released 2 more singles and then the second EP, Too Young to Be Sad, in March of 2021. She did a ton of features and performances in this time, one of which with Troye Sivan, one with Black Bear, and then she finished the year with the most streamed EP for a female artist on Spotify in 2021 with the EP Too Young to Be Sad, which is objectively a really good pop record. I did lots of listening to all these girls that we're going to be talking about in preparation for this video, but if you enjoyed pop, this was a really good project. I listened to the whole thing and I really liked it, and I was also listening to her discography, was very gagged by the difference between her first and second EPs. That second EP was really good. Not that the first one wasn't, but the jump from the two was just a gag. But RCA really meant business when they decided to turn her into a pop star. But yeah, she would go on to release a debut studio album called I Used to Think I Could Fly in May of 2022. This is a pop and dance record that has maybe the most amount of producers I've ever seen on an album. I don't know what's up with that, but it did hit number 3 on Canadian charts and number 13 on the US 200, but did not chart on the 100. There's only 9 reviews for this album on Metacritic, so it wasn't causing like substantial amounts of buzz, with Pitchfork giving her a 6 out of 10 and Rolling Stone giving her a 3 out of 5. I don't remember a ton of mainstream conversation happening about this album, at least in my sphere of music, which is weird because her second EP seemed to be so successful. I thought people would be hype about a debut album, and it seems like they were in Canada, but it didn't really feel like she was breaking barriers here yet. In September 2023, we gear up for a second album when she releases the lead single called Greedy. This is a single that kind of changed the trajectory of Tate's career, I would say. There's always that one moment for artists, and I think Greedy is like the key that turned. Greedy became her biggest debut to date on Spotify and her first top 10 on the global Spotify chart. It peaked at number 1 in several countries, including Canada, Denmark, Austria, and the Netherlands, as well as the Billboard Global 200, which made it her first official number 1 single worldwide. Okay. It went viral all over TikTok, of course, and it also got nominated for a lot of awards in 2023. I watched the music video for this song for the very first time, like for this video, and I almost wish that I did a reaction. But if you could see my face when I watched that music video for the first time, not to overuse the word gagged, but oh my god, was I gagged? Was I choking for my life when I saw that music video. Tate McRae, I was not familiar with your game before I filmed this YouTube video, and researching Tate McRae made me want to stan. Like, music video changed my life. I wanted to watch every single thing she's ever done after I saw that. I think it's just because, like, you can definitely tell she's a very well and long trained dancer, just in the fluidity and sharpness of her movement. And she's really hot. She makes great pop. She's got this long flippy hair for like hairography. The vocals, the dance, like everything coming together, it was just great. It just really worked for me. And her second single for this project, X's, is also really good, I fear. It didn't perform as high commercially, but it still did kind of blow up for her. The song is very electronic, slick, hot girl dance poppy. She really left behind this like soft cursive Billie Eilish act, early Billie Eilish act that she had going on before, and now she's like giving full-on icon pop star persona, and I think that switch was just so beautiful for her. She couldn't have done anything better for her career. But yeah, Tate's second album came in December of 2023 called Think Later. It's a little differently styled than previous projects containing alternative R&B and trap pop. Less producers this time, including Ryden Tedder, who's a very, very well-established pop producer who has worked with dozens of iconic pop stars. But yeah, this project reached number 3 in Canada again, no surprise, and even got up to the top 5 in the UK. I do remember seeing some news about this album when it was being announced, but not much buzz surrounding the actual release later, which just made me wonder why she gets so much hype and attention around her singles, but then it kind of falls flat when the whole album comes. We'll get into that. Tate's recent moves, though, have been releasing the single It's Okay, I'm Okay in September of 2024. Again, watched the music video. Was I gagged out of my mind? Yes, blew my mind. Loved it. It just made me want to hit the gym, learn to dance, and put in some like 30-inch extensions. I don't know what to say. Last year, Tate also released the single Two Hands and then announced her third studio album, So Close to What, coming this February. Let me know if you guys would watch an album reaction to this. I usually just do albums that I really, really love, but if the demand is there, I would love to react to her new album for you. Now, before we get into what Miss Tate McRae needs to be bigger, I just want to hit some things that I think she's doing right. Obviously, she's seen so much success so far. I don't want this video to seem like these girls are flop. No, they're doing amazing. They're doing so well. But the point is, would I call her a main pop girl at the moment? No, I do think she's still stuck in the B B tier. First of all, is her music good? I would say yes. Some of her earlier stuff is a little bit questionable, like I said, really sticking with that soft indie girl cursive singing vibe. It was working for a hot minute, but I do think it gets old and it's not sustainable. So the first thing that I would really applaud her on is this whole flip into this baby Britney Spears persona, where she's just so, her style, her aura, her music videos, her performances, like it's all very reminiscent of like a 2000s it girl. Like she does the over the mouth mic, the insane choreo with lots of backup dancers, just so entertaining and girly and hot. I think it works for people who are the right audience, for people who love that kind of thing like me. That's why I was so gagged, because I'm a pop girl to my very core. I love that kind of music. I love that kind of vibe. So she's just really working for me. I also love that RCA seems to be like kind of taking care of her. You know what I mean? Like they're giving her this budget for these insane concepts and music videos and performances and stuff. And she's like really getting out there and doing things. So then the question is, why hasn't her career felt as explosive as some of the other really, really big pop girls, especially in like pure pop, hyper pop, dance pop? For one thing, I think her voice is a portion of the problem for some people. A lot of stuff that I've read about her see people complaining about her pronunciation. I think that turns a lot of people away from her. Not me personally. I think her voice, especially since she kind of switched genres a little bit, that's one thing that turns some people away from her. I think it's also the insane dancing skills thing. Like she has such insane dancing skills that it almost throws off her lack of anything super substantial vocally. Can she sing? Yes, but is it as substantial as this crazy ass dancing you can do? No. So it like throws off the balance a little bit. You have one or the other, or you have both. You know what I mean? I think the main thing that gets people's attention about her is her performance ability. So it's gonna be like the music videos and the performances that she does. And I feel like there's people out there who are more interested in an impressive vocal, if that makes sense. The other thing about Tate is I've seen a lot of people compare her to BB Rexa, calling her like a single/feature type of artist and not like a albums artist. I don't know how to explain this. I can kind of see that for her. I was trying to touch on this a little bit earlier, talking about the singles getting all the hype but the album not. I enjoyed listening to her singles and seeing the music videos, but it didn't feel like, okay, now I want to sit down and listen to her whole album. I just wanted to watch more music videos. I think she's been picking like her best work and then making it into this moment where it's a single, it gets the spotlight, it gets a music video, all this insane production, and then doesn't give her full album the same energy. And I think that's where so much of the name recognition and chart success is coming in. Like, yes, I've heard of Tate McRae, and yes, she's on the charts because of these insane singles, but I don't feel like that sets you up for a very long career. I do think that's gonna make people think of you as a singles/features artist. And a perfect example of this is actually happening now. I saw so much hype for her single, It's Okay, I'm Okay. I saw clips of the music video before I watched the full thing, all over music Twitter and such. But she has an album that has been announced that is set to come out, and I have heard nothing about it. Like, no buzz, no promo, no anything. I don't know anything about the album. I can't even remember what the cover looks like off the top of my head right now. But I will say this. Let me say this. Her tours have always done really well, is the other thing about this. I was actually stalking in this Reddit forum about her, and there was a bunch of fans of hers in there getting whiplash from how fast her shows were selling. And I think there is a demand there. People want to see her live because they've seen her performance clips, see that she's insane, and then they have to be there. So with the performance ability and the demand and stuff, I could definitely see her doing festivals in the near future, like Gov Ball, Coachella, big stuff like that. But otherwise, I don't really know what it's going to take to move her out of this like B tier pop girl category. Perhaps some branding. I know, I say it every time, and you knew I was gonna say that. But because I say it so often, that's how you know it works. I mean, a good brand works. I wouldn't say it every time if it didn't work. So I'm gonna say it. What does Sabrina have? Her own recognizable style, signature hair, a theme you'll find across her projects. You'll see it across the tour, her social media, and merch. But Olivia Rodrigo has the same thing. Taylor Swift has the same thing. Very specific aesthetics and key characteristics and identity that make them stand out, make them who they are, make them recognizable. Tate does have an amazing thing starting to go for her, which is bringing back the aura of a 2000s pop girl, but she really needs to lean into that even more and give herself a very specific recognizable brand. Like, she's so close, she's almost there, she just needs a few tweaks. I believe in her. And also, especially especially because I don't believe she's hit the peak of her career yet. She's had some insane success, but I feel like she's gonna do something even bigger and crazier. I just have a feeling about her. She's just on the cusp right now. Trust that I will be watching her career. So Madison Beer is a singer and songwriter from New York. She got her start when she started posting covers on YouTube in 2012 and was noticed and reposted by Justin Bieber. Being reposted by Justin Bieber led her obviously to going viral and getting substantial media coverage, so she signed with Island Records and would begin to be managed by Justin Bieber's manager at the time, Scooter Braun. Everyone booed, everyone threw a tomato. She released a debut single called Melodies, which featured Justin Bieber in the music video, and then went on to have a very chaotic start to her career between 2014 and 2018. She released a few singles and did some features, but it wouldn't be until the release of her lead single Dead in 2017 that she would start to pick up some traction. It was a little different for her, a little more indie pop, kind of edgy. This was the first song by Madison that I ever heard. I remember having it on my playlist when I was a freshman. But this song Dead was a part of her debut EP As She Pleases that was released in 2018. This was an alternative R&B EP with 7 tracks. Yes, I did give this a listen for this video, and I was very surprised by the production of it. I always perceived Madison as a soft indie pop girl. I did not realize that her earlier stuff was so R&B electronic kind of sounding, because I'm so used to her more recent lane, which we will discover in a minute. But this EP sounds very much like the time period it was released in, giving me really 2018 top 40s radio music kind of thing. She does have a really good voice, I will say. I kind of didn't know that about her. She's kind of insane vocally. The EP As She Pleases didn't make a lot of noise on the charts. It came in at 93 on the US 200. So regardless of being a signed artist, she was a little bit underground, I will say. She was known by the internet. She had a long history of being viral on the internet, but was kind of more underground as an artist. She wasn't charting. She did, however, embark on a small tour for this project that had 29 shows and would make it much higher on the charts with her single Home With You, which is still a banger. Why lie? I rediscovered this song. I was like, oh, I remember this song. I feel like she's one of those artists where it's I don't know any of her songs, and then you hear it and you're like, oh, Home With You? Banger. But yeah, this success would land her a spot at Lollapalooza in Chicago, and then in 2019 Madison signed to Epic Records under Sony and would go on to begin working on her debut album. So then in 2020 she released the single Good and Goodbye to kick off the debut album era. This has an insane music video. You should check it out if you're feeling the Madison Beer vibes. This was followed though by the single Selfish that impacted hit radio and hit number 19 on Billboard's Bubbling Under 100 chart. This is a gorgeous song with super layered harmonies, a lot more stripped back for Madison in this time, and I do remember this being around on TikTok, so she was kind of getting some more recognition here. She also released a single called Baby that had a couple of remixes and was performed at the MTV EMAs, and then her final single was called Boy Shit. Super fun, a little more bubblegum, a little more pop girl. Then she releases the debut album Life Support in early 2021, which was both co-written and co-produced on by Madison herself. My surprise with this album is that it's pretty dark, personal, and sad. I did listen. I learned after that listen that she had worked on it while she was in a major depressive episode. I wrote that it has a really cohesive tone with these super dark sounds and whimsical, haunting melodies, and I like the way the sound of it matches with the album cover. The cover and the visual stuff and the music together just works beautifully. This project didn't get a ton of critical attention, mostly favorable, but Pitchfork gave it a 5.9, though I don't know if we can trust them. It hit around 65 on the US 200 and somewhere in the top 40 in a few other countries. So you see what I mean? Obviously good, just not big. I will say I remember when she toured this album because there was clips of it all over TikTok all the time. People really seemed to enjoy this show. It was the White Rabbit audio that popped off on TikTok. That was Madison. She had really cute stage looks at this time, with the bows in her hair and everything, and a really cute setup. I think she was really finding her footing and doing her thing in the life support era. It seemed to really come together for her. Okay, then in 2021, Madison released the single Reckless that hit the top 40 in mainstream charts, kind of proving that people were excited for more stuff from her. She would also release the singles Dangerous, Showed Me How I Fell in Love with You, and Home to Another One, all a part of her sophomore album Silence Between Songs. This wasn't released until September of 2021, 2023. Then she'd release the final single, Spinnin'. The crazy thing about this album is that it's like fully psychedelic rock and dream pop, not really electronic, alt pop, or R&B at all like before. It was just like a new direction for her entirely. I was kind of gagged by this album. Can I stop using that word? What's another word? I was rocked by this album. I cannot believe I've been sleeping on her. I don't know why I never listen to like these people when they're making music and stuff. It's kind of annoying of me, but I was sleeping on this album. It was so good. I love the name of it. I love the cover of it. The content on it is beautiful. I love her voice. She even set the album to Lana Del Rey and got her stamp of approval, and Lana said her favorite song was Spinnin'. Critics also loved this album. One was commenting on how her last works were leaning towards radio approval pop, but this was much more her. It didn't chart well though, not even top 40 in the US, which is so crazy because I thought this was a gorgeous, cohesive, really fit her vibe project. It did get nominated for a Grammy though for Best Immersive Audio Album. And then Madison's latest moves have been releasing the single Make You Mine, which was nominated for Best Dance Pop Recording at the Grammys. This song went pretty viral, I will say, especially with the Jennifer's Body inspired music video. I loved that. Very, very, very good. So good. I understand 100% why people eat up this song, and it makes me really curious about what her next couple of things are going to sound like. She did also release a single 15 Minutes, by the way. I really enjoyed looking into Madison Beer. She has great music, and looking into her for this video has set me up to be excited about her next project. I think she's done such a great job at growing into her musical identity and finding her footing, because her first project and her latest project are so incredibly different in the best way ever. The first EP was very messy. I hated the cover. The branding was just not there. It was so bad. And it felt very like trying for a hit, radio-y kind of music, some good stuff. But her debut album was just such a pleasant switch up from that, and then she just got better and better from there. And now at this point, I do think she has a great working brand and lots of potential. She has this really cute, dainty, soft girl aesthetic going on. I see it all across her Instagram, her website, her tour setup, her merch. Her merch is so cute. She has such a great thing going for her. So why is she not up there playing ball with the big pop girls? I unfortunately think the thing about Madison is that people see her as an influencer, or like a influencer pop star, and not an actual one. She's always sort of been influencer-y. She's always hung around them, and she has a lot of past associations and scandals that make people hesitant to stream or check out her music. So I think it's just really been hard for her to pull herself out of that bubble, especially because so many people call her inauthentic, which is something you just cannot be in music, especially when you don't have a super unique it factor, which I think Tate does have, but Madison does not. This is one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure what's going to help her, or if she even wishes for bigger exposure. She could be so fine where she's at right now because she's doing it. Like, she's being successful and making music. She has an audience. I don't think there's a need for a rebrand for her, so to speak. I just think for her it's more maybe working harder on building a really solid core fan base and kind of switching up the public and media's perception of her. Maybe taking herself a little bit more seriously as a serious pop star. Then I think she could do something like even more major. But I really enjoyed her music. She has a great thing going for her, so oh, Camila girl. We have so much to get into right now. Oh, me talking about Camila Cabello again on the internet. This is a singer-songwriter who got her start by auditioning for the very short-lived US version of The X Factor, where she was put in the girl group Fifth Harmony, the messiest girl group of all time, yet queens of the Baker Factory. I do have a whole video essay on Fifth Harmony if you want to explore them. Well, of course I do. So you can check that out if you want to. But this is about Camila. She left Fifth Harmony in 2016 and would begin a solo career by doing some features. One with DJ Cashmere, one with J Balvin and Pitbull and Travis Scott. Her debut solo single came in May of 2017 and it's called Crying in the Club. Do you remember this? The song itself is very clubby as gas, tropical, dance poppy. Nothing too crazy for Camila coming out of Fifth Harmony. It's like pretty similar to other stuff popping off on the radio. It charted in the top 50 in the US and then at number 12 in the UK, sitting around that 40-50 in other countries. She performed the single at the Billboard Music Awards and then went on to open for Bruno Mars on tour. Her big breakout moment came, of course, when she released the single Havana that ended up up being a mega hit for her. Rightfully so. I'm sorry, but that song is like a drug. It's like one of the catchiest things I've ever heard in my life, and not in a way that I want to hate it, like I just eat it up. But yeah, it reached number 1 in Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, Ireland, France, Hungary, and the United States. It spent 7 weeks on top of the US mainstream top 40 airplay chart, and the song became Spotify's most streamed song ever by a solo female artist in June 2018, with over 888 million streams at the time. It popped the fuck off. She would release her debut album Camila in January of 2018, still under Epic and Psycho like she was with Fifth Harmony. This is primarily a pop record, but Camila also incorporates elements of R&B, Latin, reggae nation, dancehall, and hip-hop music. This album has so many random producers, including Skrillex. Like, what is happening right now? I also did not enjoy this album, I'm not gonna lie. Who do I look like lying to my viewers? But I didn't necessarily enjoy it, just not my kind of music. It sounds very dated. Like, it sounds like exactly like when it was released. Regardless though, it performed really well. It debuted at number 2 in the UK, but then fell to 6, and debuted at number 1 on the 200 charts. She actually hit number 1 in 8 countries, and then it was nominated for Pop Vocal Album at the Grammys. This album would also give us the singles Consequences and Never Be the Same. I don't know how I forgot about this song until I started working on this video. This was around the time I got a car and a license, and Never Be the Same terrorized my radio. Nicotine! That's all I think about every time I hear the name of this song. But I'm sorry, this song is also a banger. Like I was saying about Havana, Never Be the Same kind of hits crazy. I'm so sorry. Like, I know so many people think her voice is annoying and scratchy and ratty and whatever the fuck on that song. But me, I'm eating. So good. Love it. Anyway, after her debut album, she went on her first ever solo tour, Never Be the Same tour. And then while on a break from this tour, she was the opening act for Taylor Swift during her Reputation Stadium tour, which of course is huge. She went on to open the Grammys with the performance with Ricky Martin, J Balvin, and Young Thug. Then, June 2019, ladies, she releases, oh yes, Senorita featuring Shawn Mendes. And I thought Never Be the Same terrorized the radio, then this terrorized the universe. When I say mega hit, it's always Senorita. Whenever I think of songs that have just had the most impact commercially, I always think of this one. It reached number 1 in 30 countries. It was the 3rd best-selling song of 2019 globally. And it was also nominated for a Grammy. We could spend all day on the Senorita stats, just know it was literally a humongous hit. And once again, deserved. Sorry, for the 3rd time I'll say this is a crazy pop song. I understand why it blew up. Okay, then in September of 2019, we get 2 more singles from her called Liar and Shameless, then Cry For Me and Easy, and then her 2nd studio album Romance was released in December of 2019. It's a pop record with influences of Latin pop, R&B, and rock. Romance debuted at number 1 in Canada, number 3 in the US, and in the top 10 in several other countries, including Australia, Mexico, and New Zealand. Camila did do some promo for this album. She did several live appearances, and then she would later release another single off the album, My Oh My, that went pretty viral. I think Romance has pretty favorable reviews, with people liking its concept of romance and love. I think it's a pretty good step up from her debut album. I enjoyed Romance a lot more than Camila. I think she was digging into a sound that felt more her, and I love the cover and the font of the title on this album. I think it's branded beautifully, it looks great, and it makes sense and it matches. In 2021, Camila would release a new lead single called Don't Go Yet, which she performed in the BBC Live Lounge. She also announced this was from her 3rd album called Familia. And then in the middle of all this new album madness, she did appear in the Cinderella movie that they remade for the millionth time live action for no reason. I don't know. But she starred in that, and it would get the public absolutely stirred up talking about her. Then she would later return to music to release Familia in April of 2022. It's a Latin pop album to its core this time, inspired by the manifest collective joy she felt with her family during the COVID pandemic. She says it's really about connecting with her Latin American roots. Familia debuted at number 10 on the US Billboard 200 and debuted at number 6 in Canada and number 9 in the UK. Critics also loved this album. They found it very compelling for diving into her heritage specifically. They called it honest and raw. And honestly, out of all of them we've talked about so far, I definitely think this is her best one. I really enjoyed listening to it, and I added some tracks to my driving playlist, which is how you know it's serious. Later after this, Camila would appear as a judge on The Voice for their 22nd season. Then, in March of 2024, Camila would tease the single, I Love It. A rebrand was coming. Clearly. With a new label as well, she's now under Interscope. I Love It released on March 27th in 2024 and became a whole humongous discussion, mostly because it's an alt pop, hyper pop kind of thing that was very new for Camila. She just swerved into a new direction entirely. There's very mixed reviews of this song by critics as well as the public. It went viral for being questionable, with people calling it terrible, other people kind of appreciating it. I really wish I could be cool and different and like a fun pop girly who says that I loved this, but I just didn't. I just don't love it. I mean, there's so many pop songs out there that are like bad, but they're fun, and this one is just bad. The rap is also very random. Like the feature is just so random and it added nothing. So, but yeah, for this new direction for her, she did release 2 other singles. He Knows featuring Lil Nas and Hot Uptown featuring Drake, neither of which really charted much, which is kind of a first for her because before her singles were popping off. But then she would release the album XOXO June 2024, and it's a pop record but with elements of hyperpop, hip-hop, avant-pop, and alt-pop. She went on a festival tour to promote this album and was drumming up so much public conversation surrounding the rebrand, again with lots of people hating the new direction and other people defending it. I will say it does have the least favorable reviews out of all of her albums so far, with the majority of critics not liking it after they thought Familia was so good. This album debuted at number 13 on the US 200, but hasn't gotten really many notable accolades that I can talk to you about. I just don't think a lot of people took this project seriously, maybe until she released the deluxe version. She made a single from the deluxe version, Godspeed. She made that a single and performed it at the VMAs, and then a lot of people started to kind of see her differently, I think. I will say I was sobbing by the end of watching the Godspeed music video. I'd never heard the song before. I vaguely heard it kind of when she performed it, but then I really listened to it and really watched the music video, and I was in tears by the end of it. Just like, wow, goosebumps for sure. It was maybe one of the best singles that I had heard in her entire discography. I feel like so many people loved Godspeed and had like a where was this the whole time kind of moment. I think XOXO has its moment. Is it her best album? No, but I put in my notes that I think she needed the space and freedom to create and play in this way and get it out of her system. When I was reading and researching Camila, a lot of her fans said that she is a very experimental person, so it kind of made sense that she would want to get this out of her system. I will say it's a very consistent aesthetic. I like that about it. The cover is cute. There was lots of artistry involved here, and I think she had a lot of fun, so I can't really be mad that it's not her best album. As far as Camila not really being looked at as a main pop girl, it's weird because she has so many insane mega big hits and has charted pretty well for most of her career. She's also been in the news a lot over the past couple years for her relationship with Shawn Mendes, but I just don't think she has enough name recognition or anything substantial enough to be like an A-tier pop girl. I think the issue partly stems for some people in the public already not liking her coming out of Fifth Harmony, you know what I mean? She was in Fifth Harmony in the public and people already did not like her, so it was hard for her to come out of that and make a switch into favorable opinion. And I don't think agreeing to do the Cinderella movie was doing her any favors. Like, she just came out of that kind of as a huge joke to the public and to the media because the movie tanked so bad and people thought it was so bad. So she kind of turned herself into a little bit of a joke online, not even in that sense, but there's been a couple of moments where she's gone viral for doing something a little wacky. She's just like known to the public as a weird girl, just like a weird girl, and some people just don't like that kind of thing. I do think she has the chance to be extremely big in the Latin pop space because so many people resonated with her album Familia, but I don't know if that's a direction that she sees for herself. And I will also say that XOXO did get her some attention, but only because I feel like the switch in genre was so controversial and people were calling it cheap hyperpop and talking about Charlie XCX at the same time, so that just drew in a lot of eyes. I feel like she could come back from XOXO and do like an insane new album that puts her in good graces with everyone and she's like, yeah, this was my plan all along kind of thing. Or she's gonna fade into obscurity and just be referenced as that girl from Fifth Harmony, or be compared to BB Rexa making hit singles for the rest of her career. I also think she struggles with identity, and that's part of her problem as well. Like I said for some other girls in this video, she doesn't have a lot of identity or recognizable brand or anything. She hasn't really honed in on something specific that makes her her. Not that you have to have one concrete thing for all of your eras, but a concrete thing that you can switch up into different eras. I feel like Camila is the type of artist who just makes music. She just makes music. She just makes her music. She does her art. Is there a lot of identity? No, I just make my music. And that could also be part of the problem. Okay, on to Gracie. So Gracie Abrams is a singer-songwriter from Los Angeles. She's the daughter of famous filmmaker J.J. Abrams, and her mother Katie McGath is also a film and TV producer. It's said that Gracie began songwriting when she was just 8 and then would later drop out of college to pursue music full-time. So it happened for her. She released a debut single under Interscope Records in October of 2019 called Mean It. It really established this very specific tone of music and songwriting for Gracie that I feel like she's become really known for these days. The very soft indie girl kind of thing. She'd go on to release an EP called Minor in 2020, featuring the single I Miss You, I'm Sorry, that gained her a lot more traction. That was like one of her first really recognizable singles. I Miss You, I'm Sorry is gorgeous. I feel like I understand why that stuck out and got people's attention. The following year, Gracie would announce a second EP, This Is What It Feels Like. We get the singles Feels Like and Rockland, which was actually worked on by Aaron Dessner, which would turn a lot of Swifties onto Gracie. This EP started to get Gracie a lot more traction in the music scene. She embarked on a small tour and then opened for Olivia Rodrigo's Sour Tour, which is huge, obviously. The EP is an indie pop record with 12 tracks, but wasn't released as her debut album, and just instead like a project. But I feel like this could have been a debut album for her. I love the cover. It's long enough. It has a really specific mood that ties everything all together. It was a good project. But yeah, not her debut album. We did get a lead single for her debut album, though, called Difficult in 2022. Then in 2023, we got the debut album. It's called Good Riddance. This was recorded at Long Pond, which I think is really fitting for it if you listen to it. Good Riddance is primarily a pop album with influences of indie pop and bedroom pop, drawing from a moody and electronic sound. It has themes of guilt, heartbreak, self-identity, personal accountability, and coming of age. Most of the critical rave about this album was about her songwriting ability at her age, which I totally get. I think that's one of the best parts of her. This album was included in Rolling Stone's 100 Best Albums of 2023 and Billboard's 50 Best Albums of 2023. It hit number 3 on the UK albums chart, but struggled to chart in the US, not even hitting the top 50 on the 200. But then in 2023, Gracie would open for Taylor Swift on the Eras Tour, which drew in thousands of more listeners for her. And then she did also go on her own Good Riddance tour, and she would be nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammy. Then in April 2024, Gracie announces her new album, The Secret of Us, that would be released in June. The Secret of Us is labeled country pop, indie pop, and folk. Risk and Close to You were the lead and second singles, followed later by I Love You, I'm Sorry. Taylor Swift also features on this album, which is absolutely bananas bonkers to me. I couldn't believe that when the news came out. It received positive reviews from music critics, which praised towards its lyrical vulnerability and artistic growth shown by Gracie, like from her previous project. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 in the US, which would be her first top 10 and highest charting album. The album debuted at number 1 on the UK albums chart as well, and also debuted atop of the charts in various other countries. So of course this project performed so much better than her last one. She really has eyes on her, and I think so much of that was just simply from Eras Tour. This album's songs are have been inescapable for me, all over TikTok, clips on music Twitter. The amount of times I've heard some of these songs against my will is crazy, and I know little parts of them just because they're so viral. So Gracie for me has been absolutely inescapable, but I still wouldn't call her a main pop girl. I definitely feel like it's just a matter of this being the very beginning for Gracie. It took me the least amount of time to research and talk about her, obviously, because her career is so short. She's still so new and has done so little that I feel like she's just sitting on the gold mine of the beginning of something. I do think she has an okay thing going, but she could use a more specific approach to her identity and brand. It's there's traces of a thing with Gracie, but I need more. I can see the bubble that she's going for. I can see her demographics, but I need more. I think the number one thing holding Gracie back right now is simply the public hate train that clearly exists against her. I've seen it everywhere.
I hate Gracie Abrams. Her music is shit. I know some of my friends listen to her. Her music is shit. What do you mean you're what do you mean you're the Nepo baby, daughter of J.J. Abrams? And your music just sounds like She has never worked a service job in her life, and I can tell.
Outside of her targeted fan base, there is just lots of online memes and jokes and hate for Gracie specifically, which seems to always happen with successful young girls, doesn't it? Some of this public hate train simply comes from her being a Nepo baby and being handed her career. There really was no backstory. She wanted to do music and she started doing music. So sorry to mention it. Hello, elephant in the room. I mean, That's just why some people don't like her. I think some people also just have a problem with her voice, kind of like I was saying with Tate, the style of pronunciation and tone, that very indie girl, soft, cursive-y type of thing. People do not like it. And the last thing I'll say is her last album cover was an abomination to society, and she did that to herself. The public hates this album cover so much, it pisses people so off. Like, I've never seen an album cover. Maybe people were also mad about Brat, but kind of got over it. But this one, people will not relent. Like, it's just horrible feedback all the time. I am an album cover warrior, you know that. And yes, it is one of the worst I've ever seen. I genuinely can't imagine what her entire team was thinking. What was the goal? I don't know. But do I think Gracie can survive the hate and have a successful career? Absolutely. I think her music and songwriting style resonates with people too well for her to be abandoned. She has a clear, perfectly aimed target market, and it's working for them. I don't know with her style of music if she'll ever be considered a main pop girl. It makes me very curious if she's ever going to switch up her sound. So I could see her maybe going rogue one day and doing some crazy pop song that everyone's like, oh my god, what happened to Gracie Abrams, you know? But yeah, she's doing well where she is. We will see. All right, taking this off. Okay, so that was my exploration of some B-tier pop girls and why we haven't seen them seeing as much success as some of the bigger girls. Go off in my comments, girls. You know I love it when you do this. Let me know if you listen to any of these artists' music and why you like them, why you don't like them, why you think they're not as big. Try not to fist fight though. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so glad I got a new mic. Hopefully you'll stick around. I've seen a lot of people watching my videos and not subscribing. It's honestly kind of hurtful. I'm gonna be so real. So why don't you stay and subscribe? And while you're down there subscribing, don't forget to check out a form I have where you can request certain video topics from me if you have any ideas. I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing, staying warm in these crazy winter months, and I will see you in my next video.